see everybody here today, and I'm going to read, I'm going to just read 3 poems, one from my first book and one from my second, and then the most recent thing that I've written. Okay, so the first one is it's the poem that was published in the Spirit of Pride, LGBT and Collected Works, that Alyssa Cerconi and Danny Sexton and Ben Miller put together for us. And so I'm going to just read that poem first. This one has some references. It's a little older. In the days before the internet, we did not have a way to look for movies unless we went to either the newspaper or to 777-FILM, which was this line you could call, and you could put in your zip code and find out where the nearest movie was, which is kind of weird for us now, but that's the case. So that's in there, 777. Also, a movie called The Vanishing, which is a really terrifying film. It's a Dutch and French film, and that's the movie I ended up going to without knowing what it was about. And then Louise Hay is in here too, and she was a self-help guru. Also, I'm terrified of tunnels. Tunnels. Oh. Yeah. So driving's a problem sometimes. It's called After the Vanishing. I didn't know what the movie was about, but I was angry at you for not wanting health insurance or Western medicine. I phoned 777-FILM and found the closest theater with a 245. I put on my winter coat and said, "It's your life, not mine. I'm going to a show." I didn't know it would be about losing the person you love in the prime of your life together. I stood on the corner of Henry and Orange and heard the voice of Louise Hay, her meditation she kept playing over and over, until I hoped she'd become mute in some tragic accident. I sat down in the dark to forget you. And then the lovers were in love. They drove into a tunnel and ran out of gas. They argued, and she walked into the fog, and he walked into the sun. And she thought about dying alone without anyone to rock her safely in the cradle of her arms. He drove out of the tunnel and found her. He didn't know that the first loss was preparation for the big one, the one you sometimes see in movies, where the evil person looks sweet, a man with a broken arm selling key rings, someone you could see in a convenience store and speak with, as she does, leaning against his car while he shows her the key ring with her boyfriend's initials engraved in the front. She gets in and feels the seat plush as a mother's breast. He takes the poisoned handkerchief and covers her mouth as if with one deep kiss at the exact right moment, and she faints, the way I fainted the day the doctors told us you were going to die. Not today or tomorrow, but soon, and the camera goes underground. The leading woman wakes and is not in her lover's arms or in her own bed. The earth packed around her tight as her lover's lips, sealing her lips. She screams, beats her fists against the coffin's lid. And I don't wait for the final credits, but run home and open the door, saying your name over and over, bathroom to bedroom, and you're there, naked, in bed, silent, not dead, wanting me to touch you, palm, back, nipple, mouth. We make love in the uncaged air. Drugs have made HIV/AIDS pretty manageable now, and so these things are much less prevalent, but there was a time when every week someone died, and it was such a weird trip to go through. This one's called I Do. I bought the rings at R.J. White Jewelers from the old man with cataracts, who handed me the black velvet tray, like a silver tureen, reflecting black orchids at the reception after we kissed. I took the tray, and as I started to shake, he told me to try one on for size, then turned his back and blew dust and dried rose petals from the mantle. Been in business 40 years, he said, rubbing his finger over a smudged mirror. So I chose the one with tiny grooves etched along the edge. I put it on my ring finger, left hand. What was I doing? This was not something I could have planned for or foretold. Once done, it could never be canceled. That's nice, he said, and told me how he had opened the shop in 1963, same location, $230 to spare, and a love of metals that alchemized to liquid gold under fire. Back then, there weren't too many boys like you buying rings, no sir. This was before Stonewall, of course. It had been years since I was called a boy, and I thought how I was 7, the day in 1969 those men in skirts and high heels stood up 3 blocks away for the lives of people like me who would one day walk into a shop and buy a ring for another man's finger. You sure this will fit him? I asked, looking down at that perfect gold circle, like a halo that would taste of fire if I put it on my tongue and swallowed. He patted my hand the way a grandmother would and said, if it doesn't, bring him in and I'll serve champagne I keep chilled in back for special occasions. RJ winked then, and a white poodle appeared, as if the dog knew those syllables of drink by heart. And I suppose they'd been living there together since 1963, watching the years go by, like the parade passing down Christopher each 4th Sunday in June. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. So I gave him $586 and held in my hand the velvet case, soft as my lover's palm, and went to the Stonewall bar to pay my debt of gratitude with 2 sips of gin and the feel of names carved in the countertop. Michael loves Robert, Bill and Guillermo forever. I started to get sentimental, so I took the F train home and found him on the couch in his underwear. I held him for a long time, kissed his lips, and the room crowded close around us. Everyone we loved took a seat, relatives alive and dead, friends alive and dead, everyone who had been imprisoned for kissing in public, the ones who were tortured and had their tongues cut out, the ones kept in boxes the size of the body, the ones tied to a fence and beaten in the name of God. In front of them all, I held the hand of the man I loved and said I wanted him in my life as long as I have my life. His eyes welled up, and I tasted salt in the corners of my mouth. Then I tasted his salt inside my mouth. And as we married each other in front of the Van Wyck Expressway at 6:15 on June 8th, a Tuesday, which will never repeat itself.